Velkommen til Lettskyet IT og teknologi, en podcast om den moderne arbeidsplassen og sikkerhet i skyen.
Velkommen til en ny episode av Lettskyet IT og teknologi. I dag har vi med oss en gjest helt fra Finland. Hun heter Janette Dial og jobber som Regional Partner Sales Director i Skykick. Vi må derfor legge om språket litt, så dagens episode vil foregå på engelsk. Welcome to the podcast, Janette.
Thank you so much, Christopher and Trina. Nice to be here.
This is very exciting, and we're very excited to have a guest all the way from Finland. And Janette has previously worked at Microsoft as an office product marketing manager, whilst now she is working more closely with partners at Skykick. Her specialties are within Microsoft 365, Azure, cloud computing, and several other aspects of IT and business strategies. But let's start with you. So who's Janette? Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Janette Dial, and I'm originally from Finland. But the past 7 years, I've been living a little bit 3 years in France, and now I've been living 3 years here in the Netherlands. And like you mentioned, I used to work at Microsoft in the Office 365 team and in a product space. But now the past almost 4 years, I've been working very closely with IT partners in EMEA and especially in the Nordics, helping them with their cloud strategies and managed service offering. And I've been very happy and lucky to be working also with Lillevik during the years and learning on the way from partners how to sustain and bring the customer in the next level in the cloud era and keeping them secure.
That sounds very, very exciting. And we have brought you here today to talk about backup. Why do we need it, and why is it so important to have? So we're also going to talk about what Skykick actually do. And from what we can read, you help IT solution providers build more successful cloud businesses. And you also help partners migrate, backup, and manage their customers in the cloud. So we're going to hear lots from Janette and her experience, her knowledge, and also a little bit about what Skykick do throughout this episode.
But first, we would like to get to know Janette a little better. So we would like to start the section with a quick fire round with 5 questions that we usually do. So are you ready for this?
I hope so. You didn't tell me what are these 5 questions, so...
They're quite easy, so no worries. Okay, the first off is, what is your birthplace?
Finland. Yeah, I was born in Finland in 1985.
And what city in Finland?
Kotka is called. It means eagle, so it's like the bird eagle. And so I was born in the seaside in Finland.
Cool. Yeah. And what's your favorite outfit on home office?
Home office. Well, I like cozy jumpers. And of course jeans. I've tried on, especially in summertime, wear much nicer clothing. So we get out from this getting cozy mode back to the normal rhythm of clothing.
And what do you do when you're not at work?
I was just in Finland, and luckily, we have been able to travel in the past months after the vaccination. So I was really happy to meet friends and family after work and before work. But if I'm in Amsterdam, I really love to start. And during the pandemic, I really love to start my days with the 1-hour walk. So I do the office kind of in a way that I go to outside and come back to home. So it was a good way of start the day during the pandemic, and still is my favorite thing to do.
Sounds nice. And what's your favorite gadget?
My favorite gadget. Actually, I love photography, and now because my other camera broke down, so the Wi-Fi connection is not working. So I bought this Apple converter, so I can just with this converter to get my pictures from camera to my phone very easily. So I think that has helped my life lately a lot. So I would say the Apple photo converter. So that is my favorite gadget.
And lastly, we were talking about it a bit, but now that the world is opening again, where would you like to travel next?
Actually, one of my best friends is getting married next week in Dubai. So I am traveling next week on Wednesday for a long weekend for a wedding in Dubai. So that will be my little 4-day sun break and also celebrating my friend's wedding.
Sounds nice.
That sounds very exciting. A bit jealous.
Yeah.
So let's get back into what we're actually here to talk about. And that's, of course, backup, but also Skykick. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what Skykick do.
So Skykick was founded around 10 years ago, also by old Microsofties. And we are a cloud automation company. We started our business moving customers' data to Office 365 with our migration product. Then we realized that there is no backup in Office 365 around 5 or 6 years ago. And then we created our backup product, which you use as a partner a lot with your customers. So we secure your customers' data with our Office 365 backup. And now we actually saw an opportunity help partners to automate several different kind of IT tasks with our Cloud Manager product. So it's a cloud automation platform which partners save time and operational costs. So our basically back idea of Skykick is really automate the processes. So partners have more time for different kind of products and projects without like spending time on nitty-gritty tasks here and there. So we are really trusting our platform automation help you guys to be more successful and saving time and cost.
Sounds very good. And I also read somewhere that you're a company born in the cloud.
Yeah, so I think it's a natural transition when the founders came from Microsoft to kind of use the technology available there. And so everything is basically Microsoft based. The idea that they saw that there is like a huge addressable market 10 years ago to move customers to the Office 365 and then use Azure because it's so secure and fast to move their customers to Office 365. And now, of course, with the backup as well.
And how does Skykick cooperate with the Lillevik?
Well, when I joined Skykick around 4 years ago, I already knew from my Microsoft experience that the addressable market for moving customers to Office 365 is quite small because Nordics were already like first in a cloud kind of a region. So I think you haven't done so many migrations with us because when you started to use our backup, there wasn't really so many customers that need to be migrated. So today, obviously, you use our backup product. It's in your managed service strategy, and that is how I help you with customer cases and helping to secure your customer data.
Okay, so how do you cooperate with partners in general?
Our European headquarters in Amsterdam opened around like 4 or almost 5 years ago. I think 4 years ago, yeah. And like in a very basic level, we help the partners to migrate the data and we basically transform the way to do the migration more automated way. And at the same time, I see myself as a very consultative role and helping partners to create their managed service offering and strategy. What I mean about that is like, should be in the modern workplace offering? These kind of questions I get daily. Janette, can you help me to make the modern workplace strategy? What should I include in the bundles? What should I leave out? Do with the bundles and so on. So I see my role also as like helping partners to redesign their strategy in the cloud era because there is still a lot of partners who don't have this managed service offering. So, for example, on tomorrow I have this kind of workshop where we together with a partner think like what do they want to add to their managed service offering. And I always say like when partner wins, I win. When partner lose, I lose. So it's very, I'm very partner focused. Sometimes maybe I hear feedback I'm too partner focused, but like that's who I am.
I think it's good that it's that way. So you said that the Norwegian partners or Norwegian customers are more or less born in the cloud. Are there big differences within Europe?
Absolutely. So I knew already when I worked at Microsoft that the addressable market, for example, for Office 365 migrations in Finland was like really, really small. So, and when you think of like Germany or Switzerland, there is still a lot of customers need to be moved to the cloud. So there's a huge difference between the regions. So, and I never talk about our migration product with my partners because I was like, they don't even want to do the migrations anymore. Basically, it is a waste of time, like they say to me. So there's a huge difference, and so that's why I've been leading my business with the backup product basically since the beginning. Of course, there's sometimes migrations, but I think the few enterprise customers here and there, and that's it. And of course, small SMBs, yes, but they're 1 to 3 seater customer, but the enterprise segment is pretty Office 365. Yeah.
So in what way does your customers utilize your backup services?
So basically, we back up customers' Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Groups and Teams. The customer doesn't even necessarily understand that they have a backup service running in the backend. But when something happens, they realize that, okay, luckily we have the backup. So because many times they don't necessarily even know that especially when it's called like it's in the managed service bundle, they don't even necessarily see, they just see like, okay, it's antivirus is there's a backup, but they don't really understand that they are using a Skykick backup.
And with the pandemic, did you see any changes in use of backup services?
Well, even though the adoption of modern workplace products was already quite high in the Nordics, of course we saw, and especially you probably saw, an uplift of the usage of Teams, for example. And at the same time, when people start to work from home or remotely, different security protocols were needed to be thought through again. Backup is seen as one of the security products offering element, and obviously as a shift to modern work happened globally in 2020, there was an increase and immediate need for backup as well. So I'm pretty sure you as a partner as well saw customers asking for backup or like, okay, now our like employees are now working remotely. What do we need to do differently? Or am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this might be an easier question, but can you tell us what backup actually is?
Yeah, sure. I think many people naturally think that when data is in the cloud, it's automatically backed up. So people tend to make backup and cloud. And when I used to work at Microsoft and I put my consumer hat on, I used to think that I put one piece of the file or on the desktop, I save it there, and then I save it also in OneDrive. So I thought like, well, now it's in 2 locations. It's kind of like a mixed of the idea, because there is no restore button in Office 365, and you cannot just restore emails or SharePoint sites with a click in few minutes. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to change the narrative that the cloud is not a backup. And even though the things, files and everything are in a cloud, you cannot get them back. For example, if you think about your personal OneDrive account, you have photos there. And then if you delete that file, who do you call? There is no, and I've been thinking, because it's happened to me when I lost my personal photos from OneDrive, I couldn't get them back. So the thing is, at the same time, if you lose something on your corporate or company OneDrive, you cannot get those back without a backup solution. So even though they are in the cloud, you can still delete them. And also when we think about backup, the data is secure, and even the ransomware hack would happen, you could travel back in time and save the data, or somebody accidentally or on purpose deletes them. So there is many different scenarios why you need backup.
Exactly. And that leads to my next question, which is why it is important, because without backup, you could actually lose all your data and files.
Yeah. So why is it important? I think I hope I don't repeat myself, but for many reasons. Many times when we think about backup, we think about ransomware attacks. But backup also secures us from human errors and also not wanted behavior when employees leave the company. My colleague told me this very good example about a recruitment company from UK, and that this recruiter was forwarding confidential data, her personal emails, for months. And then when she left, I think 6 months after that, she has been starting to forwarding these emails. The old employer realized that why are we losing the customers, like why they are moving. And then they went to Office 365 and they couldn't see anything because that account had already been, like, all those actions never shown on the Office 365 admin portal because it only keeps the deleted data for 14 to 93 days. So they were too late. But luckily they had the backup product on place so they could actually see what she has been doing in the months before her departure. And because our backup, the legal actions to take against her. So it's also like, we also think like why like backup is needed for ransom attacks, but it's actually like protecting the employer also from human error and also behavior, like in this UK case.
As you said earlier, Microsoft doesn't have backup installed, and you need to have Skykick, for example, as a backup service to be sure to have actually good backup. But you use Microsoft Azure. So is it safe to have backup in Microsoft Azure when your data is already at Microsoft in Office 365?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is ties down the GDPR touch point as well, or touches the GDPR as well, because when you have the data in Office 365 and then the backups in Azure, the circle is complete. So basically, there is no hole in that security area because the data is always at Microsoft. And as you know, you're a Microsoft partner. They have all the security protocols in place, and also the restores are faster, and it's really like no-brainer not to have them there. And you can also like select different locations if the customer feels like, oh, what if like a data center nowhere goes down, or like Holland will sink as we have the data center here in Amsterdam as well. You could also have them in different location, the Office 365 data in Dublin and the backup in Norway. But I don't really see, because there's also how they mirror the data. If something would happen to the data center, the data would be mirrored to another data center. So yeah, I'm not like a super expert on this area, but I have had never any problems on my like 10 years almost in this career and in this space. So yeah, it's better to have it in Azure than some like on-prem solution for sure.
Absolutely. And you make a valid point when you say that you actually have the flexibility to use different data centers. So you can actually choose another data center than what your Microsoft 365 files are stored at. So that makes it completely safe because you actually can make that redundancy yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the best way to store data safely, would you say?
I think Lillevik is a prime example on how to add the backup solution to managed service strategy. You have all the services needed to make sure your customer are safely backed up in Azure, and you have other security products as well in your portfolio, what is added to the managed service offering. And I think we have learned by now that it can be also a small company who get attacked, or really big one like Maersk in Denmark. In a Maersk case, for example, they would have saved hundreds of millions if they would have had a proper backup solution and also like security protocols, and there wouldn't have been any downtime. So definitely highly recommend to have a backup solution attached into your managed service strategy and offering.
And also, due to GDPR, many Norwegian companies, they require that data is stored on Norwegian soil. Can you tell us more about this and the possibilities this gives companies?
So what I've learned now when I've been working with the partners across EMEA is that every country has their own security policies and protocols. And this is definitely something I've seen in Norway, that the companies really require that the data stays in Norwegian soil. And that is why we are most likely one of the top vendors in Norway, as our backup data is in Azure and the location is in Norway. So definitely I get these questions a lot from Norwegian partners that, we would like to use you, but we want our data to be in Azure in Norway. And then I'm like, we use Azure and the data center is in Norway, so the data stays there.
That's something that has come up quite often, even in the news about Norwegian companies, especially due to GDPR.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why actually Norwegians also like our backup is because you can select a retention policy. So when I think in Norway, in financial sector, the data needs to be available after 15 or 20 years. Or something like that. So with our solution, you can actually place your retention policy in indefinite or up to 20 years or so. So I think that is also giving the Norwegians the security that the data is there when they actually need it, especially in the financial or legal sector.
Yeah, and that is also one of the things that I find quite beneficial with Skykick, is that it's both unlimited retention, but also the size of the storage. There are no limits to how much you actually can take backup of.
Yeah. So that is basically when you talk with your customers, they don't have to worry if they have like 14 terabyte of data or 4 terabyte of data. We don't really care. It's user-based license basically, and there is no extra cost on the how much there is data. Yeah, I'm glad you like it.
The next question I find quite interesting, because it's said that it can take approximately 100 days before a data breach is discovered, or before even a company discovers that their data has been lost. So what are the potential impacts that could come if you don't have backup in place?
Yeah, this is a great question. And also Microsoft recommends to have a third-party service on because of one of this reason as well, because if data is deleted, it stays in the recycle bin for 14 to max 93 days, depending on the product. And I showcased earlier with a recruitment company that they couldn't get any information out what the old employee had done, and they just didn't have any information through Office 365. And it's normally the case that you don't immediately realize what has happened, so it takes a little bit of a time when you understand what data is lost, and that is why it's really important that you have the ability to go to even for the version histories or see the data what was there and just restore it, and you don't have to worry about it's like an insurance for your data, basically. So you don't have to worry about what if my employees deletes the SharePoint site and we realize it like 100 days later, or the chats, what has been there on Teams or so on. So it's really important that customers also understand it's not only securing the employees or making them more productive so that the data is backed up, but it's also securing the employer in a case like the UK recruitment company showcased that it was really securing the employer in a case like that, or making the employees more productive in a case like Maersk. So there's no downtime, or if you need to have your file back. And we also, like I mentioned, we do version history. So if you have like a chocolate chip cookie recipe and you change it every day a little bit, we take a snapshot of that recipe 100 times and we don't delete even the historical data. So with our solution, the data and files are protected and available when the customer needs them.
And this is quite important because we've seen lots of cases in the media lately about companies that have been targeted by ransomware, for example, and they've actually had trouble getting their data back. And that proves how important it is to have backup solutions in place.
Yeah, and some of our features is that you can actually travel back in time. So if there is this kind of hack, you could actually travel just before this hack would happen, and then we could restore the data just before the hack happened. So I always think like a Maersk as a prime example, that if they would have had that, they would have been like in a totally different situation where they ended up. But it's not always, I think it's very good to understand, it's not always the bigger companies who get attacked. It's always like smaller companies. Just my partner in Denmark told me that there was like a local dentist who got like attacked, and it's just like it can happen to everybody. If a bigger companies didn't have it right, there's a lot of smaller companies who didn't have it right. So I think you're doing an important job there to securing your customers with different security products. So these things don't happen, and your customers can continue working normally and don't have to worry about these things.
Exactly. And actually, you can hear that smaller companies oftenly say that this doesn't happen to me. Why am I important? Why do they want my information?
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore.
No, it's not. And even if you have a little web shop, you want it up and running, and that you don't want to lose your work. Whatever that is. So it's important. I wish I would have had a backup solution on personal level when I was at university writing my master's thesis. I think that would be a great solution for students to have so you can see the version history of your master's thesis when you edit it every day.
Absolutely. We as a Skykick partner are kind of the customer service for our customers when it comes to restoring backup, but it actually goes through your services. So what actually does happen on your end when we try to restore it?
So basically, we as a company, we are 100% partner-only organization. So your customer contacts you, and then your amazing tech team, who I know well, knows what to do and which button to click to get the data back. But obviously, sometimes when there is like more complex or more bigger restore needed, they normally contact our support, but that's not necessarily actually needed because the tool does everything automated way and restores back into the original location. So what is making our solution even more secure is that you cannot store it to another location. So if you need to restore an email, it goes exactly where it was sent to. So you cannot restore from location to another. So it goes to original location. So that makes our solution even more secure than others.
So I'll try and summarize what we've spoken about today. So the main subject has been backup, why we need it and why it is so important. We've also gotten to know Janette and, of course, Skykick, and how Skykick collaborates with their Norwegian partners. We've also seen we also spoke to Janette about how Skykick are helping partners redesign their strategies in the cloud, and how they also have very close relationships with their partners. One aspect that is quite interesting is that customers don't see their backup. It is running in the background, but you don't really see what actually happens. Also, Janette talked about how this is not only ransomware, but it also, due to personal mistakes, you need backup in order to prevent and to get your data and files back. And Skykick also comes with the ability to restore data, so you can go back to previous versions. And I think the main point of this is that it is easy and it is secure, and everyone should have it.
And it's in Azure in Norway.
Yes, of course. I forgot the most important thing. It's stored on Norwegian soil in Azure data centers. So I think that covers most of what we talked about today.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you. So I want to just finish off with asking you if you have any suggestion or tips for the listeners.
Well, as a tip, I would like to share for all of you that like what I've been now working remotely 1.5 years ago, and I really love to have mini breaks. So having a walk in the morning, having a walk in the afternoon to really get that energy back and get the body moving and get your brain refreshed. That is kind of my tip, what I do myself every day, because otherwise you sit just inside the house. So I think, and maybe get a coffee on the way, or, well, I think you can just see the beautiful Norwegian landscape everywhere. So you don't even need coffee. You get energized because of the landscape.
A very, very good tip. And especially in the Nordics when it's getting darker as well. It's dark when you go to work and it's dark when you go home. So I think it would be really, really nice to just have a walk in actual daylight. Lunchtime walk. I did that yesterday, actually. I just had a 10-minute lunch and then I went out for 20 minutes to walk, and so it was really great. Highly recommending. Absolutely.
So thank you, Janette, for coming to our podcast all the way from Finland. Now in Amsterdam?
Yeah, now in Amsterdam, yes.
Well, thank you for that. It's been really, I've learned a lot from talking to you today. And thank you to you, Christopher, for always being here. And I'm going to say the last part in Norwegian. Vi har en e-postadresse, så dersom du har spørsmål eller har lyst til å være gjest i studio, så kan du sende en e-post til podcast@lit.no.
Takk. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming.